There used to be a time when the budget of this country was held in anticipation, as you saw the red briefcase and the trunk loads of budget papers. Nothing of that happened. There were no trunk loads, there were PDF files, and there was a touchpad from which the budget was read. So if that is changed, we have to think that the role of the budgetary exercise in this country should also change. It should be a good speech. It should tell us transparently what the government is thinking. Very important. Because all the policies and all, we don't listen and read to every day, let's be honest. So when we are all focused, it should be transparent and tell us what is going on and what the thought process is and what is government thinking at this point of time. But now more importantly, it should be an unending exercise. India's progress can't happen once a year. It has to happen every day of the week, 24/7, 365 days. So if the budget has happened today, in all the analysis that we've been doing for hours and hours, and I don't know how many television channels and portals and all are doing that analysis, what do we need to do next? What are the next big ideas? So we are putting some of them on your screens. Let me open up this conversation. Dr. Sharad Kohli is now joining us on the broadcast as well. Let me take the quick opportunity to go to him and to our other panelists. Dr. Kohli, so here it is. Here we have the good, bad, the ugly, and we've discussed and debated it all day. What are the next big ideas? What do we now do tomorrow, next week, next month in terms of shaking things up?
Rishabh, continuing the idea of what you said that when this was a digitally read budget and so on and so forth. And I think one thing that this whole lockdown and this Atmanirbhar Bharat plan has taught you by default is that there has to be a monthly evaluation of where the country is and what is the intent of government. And I think this accountability, this answerability, parliament session or no parliament session, obviously this here you speak to parliament, but if Pradhan Mantri can speak to the country in Mann Ki Baat, obviously he talks about other things other than, the core issues, he talks about different things. I think the finance ministry should come every month on the press or in whatever form, and they should, as you said, they should give their thought process, one. Two, they should give an evaluation of what were the announcements made last month and how do these announcements stand as of today. So a kind of a follow-up of what is happening. So the answerability, I feel, should be a monthly exercise, number one. Number two, you said, what do we do tomorrow and day after and next year and so on and so forth. I think what is needed here is a constant evaluation. If it is not in this form, it has to come in some other form. We are living in an electronic world. The data comes in real time. I think this real time data should be available.
Give me a practical example. So if we are saying, we intend to take out 70 lakh water connections. So just like my COVID test, I can check the numbers every day because the reports are filing in. I should be able to go to the, ministry website and it'll tell me real time that these many connections added today, these are the areas, this is down to the tehsil level. Let's get into that data superpower you're saying.
Yes, there should be an app. There should be an app, Rishabh. And the moment you open the app, you should have an option of how many people have filed their tax returns till date, how many electricity connections given, how many water connections given, how much has been given to the farmers, how many kilometers of road has been done. I think this app should have a menu. And the moment you click that menu, you should get an idea as to what is being done. It's as simple as that. Just make it transparent, make it real time.
If the conversation is Yamini Agarwal that we were talking about earlier, that if government does 50% of what it promises, we are sorted, right? So how do we then convert into a country that is so data poor? I can tell you the exact unemployment week to week in America, and we can still have debates on unemployment in this country. Nobody the heck knows because nobody has that hard fact. How do we fix this problem? What's the big idea?
I think, at the Indian Institute of Finance, we gave an idea of bringing about digital records of labor through something called the National Labor Exchange, which may appear something like an NSC or a BSc, where labor and recruiters come together and employ each other, which includes skilled and non-skilled. And on an hourly basis, you can exchange labor hours. So, in economics, we usually, when we talk about labor, it's not a person, but it is the amount of man hours you put. So a national labor exchange, which digitally records labor data as well as puts the recruiters together with them, would be the most essential item for sorting out job problems. Another important aspect that would be there is, which I agree with Mr. Sharad Kohli, is that is an outcome performance budget. which needs to be presented on a certain time period, which actually tells you as to what were the objectives which were laid down and how much were they achieved.
Okay.
Also, what I believe is when you talk about the vicious circle of poverty, which you break with the public health sector health investment, how many people were you able to elevate out of poverty and provide for the
Okay, so
requisite
get
number
out
of
there and then you build trust and confidence because you get excited. You know, I'm feeling happy because I check Arogya Setu every day, right? And when the figure comes down to 14,000 a day, 140 in Delhi, I'm gaining trust and confidence that things are becoming better in a very, very practical sense. Let me quickly get in Professor Nalapat. Professor Nalapat, we've never been able to do this. And it is a game-changing idea. The government comes month to month to us like they have been during the pandemic. They were coming daily to us. This is what we've done today. This is what we plan to do tomorrow. This is where we are. This is what we have achieved. Should this then become something good that lasts us, that we continuously have government telling us what is going on, not come back next February and say, okay, here's a report?
Rishabh, you're perfectly right. Let me say that during a period when Hong Kong was a little freer than it is now, the point about Hong Kong was that you could go to Hong Kong, you could set up a business, you could buy a house, you could deal with any government agency without seeing a single human face. The whole thing could be done online. And of course, slowly that particular discretion is being compressed. But while it is being compressed in Hong Kong, it needs to be expanded in India. The reality is this is a country with hundreds of millions of smartphones and giving hundreds of millions of people access to the internet. Now, if you're using that for, let's say, for movies or for other things, excellent. I mean, you need that. But let's also, as Dr. Kohli says, use it for information. Once you give them valuable information that is useful to people in different occupations, I can tell you it will be a force multiplier for productivity. And one of the complaints about India has been that why is the per capita productivity in India relative to X, Y, or Z country not very good? A large part of that is because the empowerment mechanism to generate higher productivity has been lacking, and transparency through the use of smartphones, etc., can definitely become an important factor in that.
Okay, I've got a few minutes left, and I want to quickly take the opportunity of also roping in into the telecast Prem Kumar. He's CEO and founder of SnapBiz. Mr. Kumar, in a very real sense, we've already had the conversation on what has been done. What do you want to see done now, tomorrow, next week, next month?
So I think we're talking about two very fundamental things. One is to create an infrastructure of information, and the second one is the transparency. I think the digital payments drive is not just about digital payments. It's about digitizing transactions, which in turn leads to creating very integrated ecosystems, right? And consequently data banks which could be exchanged. So that you're actually building an infrastructure of data and consequently information and analysis. Then there's a larger picture of transparency, right? Which is a matter of intent rather than infrastructure. So I think the interplay of these two things, I think we are looking for a very major thrust towards digitization. The second major point is that we do have a very large infrastructure in some of our industries, like the retail industry, and these need to be treated as infrastructures because that's the infrastructure that delivers daily grocery to a 1.3 billion population on the ground, right? Now, these should be treated as national infrastructures, which, like the railroads or the roadways, or the power grids, and probably needs to be given the necessary impetus and the support to fundamentally morph themselves into a digital framework. So we're looking forward to a lot has been done. Sorry. Yeah.
So let me just get Dr. Sharad Kohli back into the comment. Dr. Sharad Kohli, we've got a few minutes left, and I want to go across everyone. Now, what are your ideas? So we spent a lot of time, I think now 2 years, discussing ideas of what can be done. It's exciting to plant some ideas in people who watch telecasts like this.
No, I'm glad, Rishabh, NewsX is probably the only channel which believes in finding solutions rather than glorifying the problems, Now, what we tried was, and this is a suggestion which I have today on the table, that, for example, let's take, for example, the taxpayers. If, Rishabh, you pay 1,000 rupees of income tax, I'll have an app on my phone that how is my 1,000 rupees being used for different schemes. Now that you can do for 100 rupees also, that probably 2 rupees went for farmers, 3 rupees went for roads, 5 rupees went for Kisan Samman Nidhi and so and so. I would be motivated to pay this tax. I can tell you with confidence, I'll be motivated to pay tax more next year because I know every 100 rupees that I'm paying, what is the allocation being done to the, so these simple steps, and I don't think this is rocket science. I mean, all you need to do is to make a program and keep changing the program as per the budget allocation. So these are the ideas. I think if the small things are implemented, you will suddenly find the impression of the government, the outlook of the government, the way we look at the government is going to radically change.
Okay, so what has that taught us? Yamini Agarwal, what did something, like the Ujjwala Yojana, which began with I give it up, right? In which I think a crore plus people, almost 3 or 4 crore people actually gave up their LPG subsidy voluntarily. I was mentioning during the day, and there's a US website called Patreon, where you can log in and support people, and you can choose how much money you want to support them with. There's no fixed rate. Should we be paying taxes like that also? I can choose how much I want to pay depending on how happy I am with government and trust people that they'll be more generous than we think they are.
Well, unfortunately, the tax system doesn't work with as good as the economics of charity. We have seen temples, madrasas, gurudwaras being extremely rich, where people out of their own voluntary choices usually pay for the religious activities.
Correct.
But when it comes to tax, people are not voluntary in their payments because they somewhere or the other feel that the services are not received by them. You built a road somewhere, I'm not getting the benefit. I'm still stuck with my home bills, I'm still stuck with my electricity bills, and I'm still stuck with my own difficulties. So why should I really pay taxes?
Okay, so it should be the return should be more obvious, but like people surprise you, I mean, we could have gone ahead with the LPG subsidy and saved a couple of $100 a month, but people say, hang on, I voluntarily give it up, and at least I had the option to give it up. So what kind of models, ma'am, 3 or 4 big ideas going ahead?
Well, one, there is a requirement for a social security system number, which can be accessed as an Aadhaar card, where an individual's basic services are highlighted with his number and his particular potential locality where he belongs. So if I need an electricity connection, water connection, I know exactly where to go. And with that number, the moment I log in, I can get in touch with these particular services immediately. Then is a national labor exchange, as I mentioned. Then is an important aspect which is necessary is that as and when I do something or I pay something, I immediately get a response. And there is a complaint addressal for that particular system.
Okay, so get going. I remember going to a passport office, I think a couple of years ago, and I could not believe that I was in and out in 30 minutes without having to make some phone call to some senior official to oblige a process, and the passport came to me within a week. It was a cathartic process because the last time 10 years ago, I can't tell you what it took to get a passport. So things can change if we put them. Vaibhav Dange is still with us. Mr. Dange, ideas, sir, because this is not the be all and end all. What would you think as ideas for the future?
I think I'll talk about the sector I work with. So I think if I look at from infrastructure and transportation, why can't we look at having my connectivity index? For example, my accessibility index, my accessibility increase year on year. Having better transport, better roads, better public transport, green public transport, less polluting public transport. So let's have a accessibility index for every citizen, how it is his accessibility has increased. I think those kind of big ideas we need to look at.
Okay, accessibility index is a big idea we need to look at. I'm going to leave a thought with Premji. Premji, idea going ahead. You've already mentioned specifically that look at retail as an infrastructure sector. What else?
I think a data exchange is very imperative, right? The democratization of data is going to be the fuel behind all these things that we are talking about. So there's no formal structure of a data exchange that is, which is, I think, is very imperative to connect all the dots, ensure that the data all flows into a central warehouse, and to make sense out of it, and have a layers of accesses depending on as the use case may be. So I think a national like the stock exchange, there should be a data exchange as a national infrastructure.
Here. You know, you won't believe it, sir, but about 3 months ago, this was in part of my checklist of things to do. Imagine the future where data becomes a tradable asset. If it's the oil and gold, it should be able to trade it. So everything I produce in my phone should have a value. I should be paid a value for it. So Google should be paying me, even as pennies to the dollar, for all the data they generate out of me. So I earn money out of it, and then they can trade it. This is an obvious thing. And if somebody can do this out there, you're going to become a multi-trillionaire. If you can set up a data exchange, imagine.
Rishabh,
Dr. Kohli.
Rishabh, there is a Urdu शेर, हजारों ख्वाहिशें ऐसी कि हर ख्वाहिश पे दम निकले, बहुत निकले मेरे अरमा फिर भी कम निकले. So I can only say.
No, sir, I'm Dr. Sharad Kohli. What we'll do is we'll now set up a policy here. Okay, disclaimer on NewsX that all ideas you take out of NewsX, we take 1.5% idea equity in that company. So if somebody makes $1 billion, we can share. We can all share it. Professor Nalapat, I'll leave the last word with you, sir. There are many things that you have been talking about specifically for a long period of time. Decriminalization of the tax law was one of them, and you know, as the announcement was made, the first thing I thought was about you. What left to be done, sir? What are the specifics? Because we talk generics often. What are the specifics that are still you're hopeful get done fast?
Rishabh, our young people are very 21st century. You take the young people from any social background, give them a scholarship, give them access to the internet, and believe me, in a matter of months, not years, they are as good as anybody else who has got much more better endowed resources. My point is, we must recognize the opportunities and limitations of the 21st century. I read, for example, that now government is going to pass a law banning Bitcoin. Well, good luck to them. The Chinese, who have got a far more aggressive state structure, tried to ban Bitcoin in 2017, failed miserably, and now they are trying to regulate it. So the point of the matter is, please understand that the more freedom you give, the more, in a sense, monitoring you have, the less overt regulation you have, the more activity you will generate, and the less need there will be to worry about problems in compliance. Bitcoin is an example. I personally have been told by experts, there's no way any government in the world can basically stop the flow of Bitcoin. I may be wrong, but this is what I was told.
Okay, I'm out of time. And for all those people watching this broadcast, let's face it, of that analysis and this and that, we don't really understand, right? What are the bottom lines? The bottom line for you is, no extra taxes to pay. Okay, your infrastructure might improve a little bit. But the hardest reality bottom line is that this now moves from Atmanirbhar to Atma Vishwas. If you as me are sick of the Rona, Dona, Jhagada, Damebazi, every morning, evening, night, this is wrong, that is wrong. Yeah, we have problems. We know that. But we have to have a quiet self-confidence that we are solving those problems, and an energy that is building in India is going to find solutions for the world. People will not be talking about the Chinese model or the American model. They'll be talking about our model, our socio-economic model, our political model. Despite everything, we're doing something. So don't buy into everybody telling you that this is a heck-hole country full of snake charmers. I take a break. Thank you all.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.